baseball lifestyle. It's my lifestyle.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Grounds Crew. As always, before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe. Toss us a review. Big episode today. Very excited about it. The playoff picture is officially set now. After the wild card games, I wanna dive into the wild card games first before we get into the matchups for the DS. Bill, how much of the Yankees Red Sox game did you catch?
I caught about, I'd say, 40% of it.
Okay.
Right? I was bouncing back and forth because, honestly, the New York Knicks were playing, and I am a Mets fan, so I don't give a dang about the Yankees playing anything at all.
Fair enough.
But I did get to see a whole bunch of it. We talk about the fact that there's no identity for the Red Sox, but the identity is they're just a good baseball team. Mm-hmm. And they're a balanced baseball team, and Garrett Cole sucks. So that's really the end of it. How much did you catch?
I watched all of it.
Alongside J-Shap?
Alongside J-Shap and watching his emotional roller coaster.
Oh yeah.
It was mostly a decline, unfortunately.
Started high, finished very low.
And it seemed like, at least for everybody except Cole, all the starters pitched how they were supposed to.
Yep.
Give 5-ish innings with 1-run ball. And Garrett Cole did not do that, and unfortunately it cost them big. Listen, Giancarlo Stanton did what he was supposed to do.
Did he though? He put all the announcers in a pretzel.
He absolutely did. That's true. That was crazy.
He hit so many home runs that were singles.
Yep.
That's the funniest thing that happened out of everything. It's going a Stantonian home run. Mm-hmm. What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And I'm just dying.
It was amazing.
That was like the boomer moment. Like, this dude just doesn't what did I do wrong?
Yep, super confused.
When he doesn't hit it out, it's not a home run.
Yep.
And because he was in a home run trot, not hustling out of the box, guess what? It's a single. Sucks to your Asmar.
Yeah.
Those were big. The other thing that was big was him getting laced at home plate.
Yeah.
Whose fault?
All right, I've been talking about this with just about everybody over the last couple of days. Whose fault? I'm not going to put it entirely on the third base coach, and for two reasons. I could see both sides. Super important situation, play on the safe side. You have second and third, and one out, Joey Gallo up, primed for runs. But also on the more aggressive side, if he scores, it has to be a perfect throw. Mm-hmm. It literally had to be executed to perfection, and it was, unfortunately.
And it was nasty. It was absolutely
It was disgusting. And so much respect there. But I get the aggressive approach, and if he does score, and Giancarlo's on second, and he looks like a genius, and it's like, yeah, Phil Nevin, but now everyone's calling for his head, and it's like, all right, this guy blundered astronomically, and now all the Yankees fans are calling for his head, for Boone, whatever.
Oh, everybody's done with Cashman, right?
So that's the other thing too.
Is Cashman the new GM of the Mets?
Well, we're going to get into the Mets GM situation later. But, yeah, I mean, listen, I totally get the aggressive approach. But also it's so easy to say you could have just held him. So,
I agree. Yeah. Looking at how it happened, my biggest issue is you got to look at your runner, right? Your runner's not a burner, right? So you're in a situation where you're sending a guy and you know it's going to be bang, bang. You have to know it's going to be bang, bang.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing was, too, is Judge was, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 feet from third base before he got the send. So it looked like he was kind of starting to pull up at third, and then he was like, no, go. I think if he's on the go the whole time, he was, one step shy?
I think it was more than one step, but even still, that was a very, very tricky moment. And, again, revisionist history, you can do it. You're in real time. You're having to do it. Ultimately, you play to win the game.
Yep.
Right? And I'd rather, I say all the time to athletes when they're, playing sports, I'd rather you make an aggressive mistake than a passive one, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather in that situation you get thrown out than we do pull you up and we ground into an inning-ending double play, and everybody's out here like, oh, this is terrible. We had a guy on, all we needed was a sac fly or this, and it's like, and we didn't come. Hey, you had the moment.
Yep.
And you had that shot and you had that opportunity. It's not the only play in the game, right?
No, of course not.
They didn't, the last 2 games they didn't really hit well. You didn't score enough runs. For a team that's supposed to be banging runs and scoring a ton, you didn't. And Garrett Cole is a really good pitcher. Garrett Cole is not a $340 million pitcher. And I think we have to come back really on the Garrett Cole situation with a lot of guys who were using spider tack to get RPMs on their ball and to make things happen. Because now that you're looking at it, like, Garrett Cole is a liability in a lot of situations.
Yeah, and I think this game in particular, I wouldn't say it had everything to do with him not having whatever on his hands. It also had a lot to do with his control and stuff, and Eovaldi was dealing and spotting, and Cole was not. And then Cole was kind of like not adjusting how he was, going about his game plan. It was more just like, all right, I can spot my slider right now, but not really my fastball. And then they were just kind of sitting on something in the zone. It was much easier for them to barrel up, and he paid for it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, all the Yankees fans, obviously, because they were just so back and forth on everything when the Yankees are doing good or not. Obviously, calling for everybody's head. They want Boone out. They want Cashman out. Do you think Boone needs to go?
No. I think that Boone culturally is the right guy.
I agree.
I think that, again, what the Yankees fans are having a problem with is something that's the big elephant in the room that they don't want to listen to. And the thing they don't want to listen to is something that I've been hammering all season long. Your team is misbuilt. You need to trade Judge.
Well, so perfect. I'm glad we got to this.
Hit me.
Do you trade Judge or do you trade Stanton?
Can't trade Stanton.
Why
He
not?
already has the contract.
He does have the contract, which is why it is a known factor. They don't know what Judge is going to cost. They have some semblance, but he's a free agent next year. If they trade him next year, he's going to be on the free agent market. Stanton is locked up for a while. Stanton has just proven that he has been playing as an MVP caliber guy who's worth that money.
Yep.
You know what you're getting with him.
I think the reality is Stanton doesn't bring you the return. Judge does.
What's the difference?
So the difference is that the other team gets to do the contract. We get to write the offset language.
Sure.
We get to put the things in. We get to know that you're the guy. It's the Lindor situation, right? Judge is the Lindor situation all over again. If you're the Yankees and the Yankees fans, yeah, but we were just in the playoffs. No, you weren't. You were in a play-in game that isn't real baseball. That was just an extra regular season game. You guys got the extra regular season game, and you didn't make it to the playoffs.
Yep.
It is what it is. Move on. So with that situation, the Yankees not being a playoff team, you got to look at this team differently, and you got to think like that. You can't think, hey, we were one game away.
Yep.
Right? The reality is that you're Springer not missing the first half of the season away from not making the playoffs at all, right? And having to watch Toronto. Toronto is stacked. And if you're building this team out, you have to do something. So my point is, Judge is a bigger name at this point than Stanton. Judge is slightly younger than Stanton. Mm-hmm. So you're in a situation where you have the slightly younger player. You have the bigger name, at least like the more recognized name.
Sure.
And you have a situation where the other team gets to decide what they pay him when they trade for him. And they get to decide the years. They get to decide all this other stuff. They get to be the people to go and have the negotiation with him. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the bigger situation. The Yankees will not get as much for Stanton because anybody on the other side is going to say, I'm trading for your contract issue. Mm-hmm. I'm not trading for a guy you get to pay. Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just the difference of opinion on how you come about it. Right? You'd rather be the guy who made the mistake by signing the person to what you want. We've talked about what do you sign Judge for? Mm-hmm. Am I signing Judge until he's 40? Right? Because that becomes the question, right?
So what would be a theoretical years and money for you?
For me, if I'm looking at it, I am trying not to give Judge more than past age 35 to 37. So if I'm looking at 35 to 37, he is 29 years old. Mm-hmm. So we're talking next year is going to be his age 30 season. Actually, next year will still be his age 29 season technically, mm-hmm. because he was born in April. So the season will have started, and they'll theoretically count it as that. So, they're counting this as his age 29. So next year, I guess they're counting it as his age 30. Fine. So next year's his age 30 season, and he'll be a free agent after that point. That then gives me that I'm paying him anywhere between 5 and 7 years, and and that'll determine how much money he gets, because he might say, hey, pay me for 8 years, pay me less money every year, right? I'd rather have a longer deal for less money per year, and you guys do it that way, than me take an appropriate length deal at a full price option, right? A la what Bryce Harper did by taking less money but getting it across years.
Right.
But that then lines up. The other team gets to dictate that with Judge.
Sure.
Right? With Stanton, you got 7 more years, right? Mm-hmm. And he's 30. And you're now talking age 37 guy. You've seen the injuries. You've seen the stuff. You've seen all this other.
They actually would be paying until he's 38.
Who?
Stanton.
So until he's 30. So that's my point, right? Like, if I get to choose to overpay a guy like Judge, my phone is bugging on us right now. If I get to choose how much I pay for, I think that's one of the benefits you're also getting with Judge.
Okay.
The other side of it is, because he's a bigger name, he's going to bring in more stuff for you if you're the Yankees. The Yankees need to rebuild. They're stuck in this thing of we're going to hit the ball really well across the 162 games, because our team is built that if the law of averages play out, we'll win a whole bunch of games. The challenge becomes is that you're going to then play the better teams, and the better teams are going to take away your situational issues. And as soon as we become situational in a short series, the Yankees are not even close to good. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge. You guys can't stack up pitchers, right? You're going to put out one guy who's even remotely a top 3 guy. Then you're going to have a whole bunch of guys who you're hoping show up. Oh, we got Severino. Guess what? Severino didn't get to pitch in the playoffs. Didn't matter, right? What's the point?
Yep.
Like, even if he did, like, he's game 3. He's game 4. Like, quit making it that you have this stacked
me and
lineup.
Josh were talking about their rotation, and I feel like after Cole and maybe Taiwan, like, the drop-off is very real.
Taiwan's a 4.3 ERA guy. Deeds, can you pull up his actual numbers? He's like a 4.5.
You're talking about, like, Jordan Montgomery, who's okay, fine, decent pitcher, Cortez, and Severino, which I feel like it's just a bunch of question marks.
And that's my thing, is like none of them have pitched enough innings to know what they are across the full season, right? It's like the Mets with McGill, right? Like, I don't know what he is, right? But he could be really good, like when he was a low 2 ERA guy, and then he also pitched more innings than he had ever pitched in his life, and his arm started to fade, right? And then he became a 4 ERA guy. Which guy is he really? I'd think that he's somewhere in the high 3s, low 4s. That's a really nice 4th or 5th guy, right? We look at Taiwan Walker. Taiwan Walker and Talion, like, same thing.
8-6 record for 4.3 ERA.
Right? So, like, that's fine, right? That's fine. That's not a difference maker in your starting rotation.
Nope.
So the Yankees have no flexibility. Right? Judge is only getting more expensive, right? Where is this team going to get better? They're not going to go over the luxury tax. They've talked about it. We don't have that money anymore. Yeah. We can't just keep dumping $210 million into this team. The Yankees are no longer the richest team in baseball. And that is something that Yankees fans have not had to deal with, and it's what's having the problem. They have a great organizational structure. They know how to put winning on the field. The reality, though, is they have not been in a World Series in 12 years. 12, right?
Yeah.
So we're now looking at I think the longest time they went without going to the World Series separate from now was after the 70s teams, when they had the stretch through the 80s and into the 90s. So this is the worst stretch in history for the Yankees, second to that time. Guys, it's broken. Fix it.
Yep.
The only fix, and again, I get that the Yankees fan is big. They need to still replace Derek Jeter. So Judge is the de facto replacement of Jeter. And if you trade Judge, who's the face of the Yankees? Garrett Cole? You don't want that.
No.
Can't be that, right?
Nope.
You were hoping it was going to be Glaber.
Yeah, I would say he was definitely up there.
So the Yankees are looking at a situation then that they don't have a guy who's the face of the organization for the first time in a long time. And that's what scares them.
Yep.
And
that's also why I have no thoughts that they trade Judge.
I don't think they will either, but that's why the Yankees fan is going to be upset for the next decade.
But, I mean, Like, I know he just came out, whatever it was yesterday, that he wants to be a Yankee for life and whatever, but I think there's going to be some opportunity that he could at least consider going somewhere else, I mean,
they most likely have to have the conversation about buying out his last year of arbitration this year if they're going to sign him, because then you can de facto say we're going to take away some of your big time money by, instead of paying you $20 million next year, we'll pay you 28. So you made $8 million more. So then we can pay you less every year after that. Right. So like we're giving you the extra money up front so that the back end is not as high. Right. We're buying out that last year of arbitration to get there. The thing is though, is that how does that make the Yankees better?
Keeping Judge?
Keeping Judge.
I mean, I don't think necessarily it makes them better. I don't think that's what the move is. It keeps them at their baseline. It keeps their leader on the team, and they have to add other pieces. I think
who was better at the end of the season, Stan or Judge?
Stan. You're right.
Who's been an MVP?
Both of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I'm now looking at it. I'm saying Stanton's got more for me. Right. When it mattered and we needed a clutch, Stanton showed up. Right. Yeah. He was there for us.
For sure.
If Judge is gone, he gets to play DH more full time, which means his bat will be in the lineup more often. Right. If Judge brings back, so let's theoretically create a legitimate trade somewhere out there in the world for a guy like Aaron Judge. Where is he going?
It's gonna be somebody who, probably an American League team that has money.
Beautiful. I have the team. We ready? Sure. Mariners. Spin around Jared Kelenic and something for Judge. Kelenic becomes the face of your organization's future if he's the guy who everybody thinks he is. Mm-hmm. Second half of the year, he was about a 700 OPS guy as a 22-year-old center fielder, right? He gets to go in center field, and he gets to grow into being the face of your organization, right? Mm-hmm. The money freed up by not signing Judge gives you the ability to go out and sign Seager to play shortstop. That allows you to move Glaber to second base. Right? That releases him from being able to do that. You move DJ LeMahieu to a timeshare at first base.
I think he'll be timeshare all over the infield.
All over. But yeah, let him be the universal everything. Right? You still have Stanton playing some outfield. You still have some, but he's the DH. You let go of Gary. The Mariners do it because, and let's again, who else did they send? Right? Do you send Justin Dunn? Right? What, can we pull up Justin Dunn's numbers from this year? I know Kelenic's just because he's a jerk. And he likes to troll Mets fans on Twitter, even though he batted 177 on the year. You shouldn't really throw stones if you're living in a broken glass house.
True.
But like I look at that and I say that's a perfect thing. They were almost a playoff team.
Right.
You now get a superstar player, right? You get to give him the money. He gets to become the whole thing. He's the face of a franchise, but he's also all the way out in California, so I don't have to see him play. Right?
Yep.
I get to close my eyes to Judge playing all the time. Right? Who watches games on the West Coast if they're from New York? Right? Super diehards.
Yep.
Give it to me.
3.75 ERA, 49 strikeouts in 50 innings.
Right? And how old is he? 23?
25.
25 now?
50 innings. Was he hurt?
Might have been a reliever.
He says 11 games started and 11 games played total.
And possibly hurt. Maybe he was up and down. Maybe he started the year in AAA and then he finished the back half of the year. And that's an arm, right? Yep. That's a 25-year-old arm. He's from New York.
Right? That's what I think the Yankees need to add to the rotation. A guy who's going to be consistently give you like a mid-3 ERA.
So and that's my point. Like, this is a young upside pitcher, right? But has big time talent. Former first round pick.
Yep.
Jared Kelenic has what everybody is thinking is like discount Mike Trout upside, right? George Springer upside. Mm-hmm. A guy who's going to bat 250, have a 375 on base percentage, and have a 500 slugging. Like, that dude is potentially what Kelenic is as a 22-year-old. What else did they throw in to get Judge to go over, right? The Yankees now lose all these contracts that are wasteful across their whole lineup, right? Mm-hmm. That they have guys who are out of position, doing the wrong thing, here, there, whatever. That team can then spend money to get a guy like Seager. You upgrade your infield, right? You have your face of the franchise. And you're putting your money into a more advantageous spot because having all of your money in outfielders and one starting pitcher isn't working for y'all.
Yep.
It's just not going to be the thing. I don't think. And again, you have to face the harsh reality. Who's the best team in the American League East?
Record-wise or talent-wise?
Talent.
Probably the Blue Jays.
So the Blue Jays are the come-up.
Yep. Oh, no. We were saying next year if they get one or two more pieces.
I think they finished almost plus 200 in runs scored.
Yeah.
Dude, that's top 5 team in the league. There's no reason they weren't in the playoffs. In the league, that's American League, National League. Whole thing, right? They were top 5. They should have 100 wins. They were a better run. I think their differential was better or close to what San Francisco was. There is no reason that team was not in the play. They're gonna be better next year. Mm-hmm. They have a full year of Berrios. Steve Matz gets to push from being the second best guy to being the third best guy, right? That team can. Who are they going to sign? Where are they going to go? They still got money to spend. Mm-hmm. So Yankees fans have to, and people were looking at the Yankees. Yankees are third best team, fourth best team in that division.
Oh yeah. Oh,
as constructed.
Boone saying that he saw the gap quote that he said that all the other teams need to close the gap on them.
What gap?
Exactly. That's what I was like. What do you mean?
What gap?
You're not playing
Boone,
well.
you're also talking about like what you're Boone. That's a 27 World Championships comment by Boone. That's you remembering the history of who the Yankees are and not the present of who you are, right? That's you counting shit that doesn't like matter anymore. And the Yankees have a serious problem. They have not been better than the Rays in 5 years. The last decade they've been worse than the Red Sox. Now you're worse than Toronto.
Yeah.
Why are you keeping Judge? What you have built will not win a World Series in this decade.
Mm-hmm. I think just like the easy answer of what do they need piece-wise before moving people around, they need a center fielder, they need a shortstop.
Clinic.
Well, so they quote-unquote have Aaron Hicks, but he's an injury liability.
But I would also
every
move
year.
Hicks. I would also move Hicks to a corner, because if you get rid of Judge, then you can make Stanton more full time at DH, and you need a corner outfielder.
Right.
And Hicks gets to move from being a pretty good pop center fielder to an okay pop corner outfielder, but you have high defense. Mm-hmm. Right now, you're putting your defenses better. Right, cool. I know that doesn't matter as much when your park is like 8 feet long. Right, but again, they have the ability to now move their team forward.
Yep.
And the Yankees refuse to reload. And I if they don't do it, like everybody clowns the Red Sox for last year, right?
Yep.
Everybody Cora was out. We had to reload. They traded Kemp because he was going to get expensive. They're not a real team. Boop. Guess what? In 2 years, they reloaded, and now they're better than you again. Mm-hmm. They did not take a step back unintelligently, reactionarily. They did it with a purpose, and now they're better than you. And you were the fourth best team in your division. Yankees fans have to recognize you were the fourth best team in your division. How did the Mets respond to their offseason? That's how the Yankees should be right now.
Yeah, I agree that there's a lot of similarities with the Mets and Yankees offseason, this upcoming offseason.
But Yankees fans would tell you no way.
I agree. Right. That's the problem right there.
And I'm ready for the Mets. Michael Conforto. See you later.
Yep.
Javi Baez, welcome to the team full time. You're my second baseman. Jeff McNeil, super loved having you on the team. Take care, enjoy. Trade him to an organization that needs to have his qualities on their team, right? He's gone because we don't have places for him, right? J.D. Davis, love you, see you later, right? Bringing up a young player. Like, that's my thing is, like, the Mets don't need to have 9 players who are all superstars. They need 3. And then they need to have 4 who are legit. And then they need to take more risks at the back end of their roster. Mm-hmm. Because the guys they have now playing the back end of their roster, the Villars and stuff, great story. Love that they're doing it. They will never be better. It is this.
Yeah.
And you need to start finding out what you have. That comes back to Khalil Lee needs to get a shot at the title. His 950 OPS, not even getting brought up in September is a joke. Vientos has 1,000 OPS in AAA. That dude is 21 years old, needs a shot at the title. Let these guys show up, and if they hit, guess what? They're in.
Yeah. We'll see. I think this offseason also with the CBA, I think stuff's going to happen faster. It's going to be kind of like an NBA style. Let's get everybody signed and get all the money and moves and everything like that, because I think at some point we might have a standstill.
Well, that's the players. The players want to get paid because they want to get a signing bonus up front that can carry them through the tough time.
Yep.
But owners are going to not do that, though.
I know.
So my question is where does it actually go?
Swing? I think it could, just because they might want to get whatever contracts they can at whatever value before.
That's why I think the Mets are in a shitty situation. Because I think that the reason why Theo and Bean are most likely out as GM options, right? Theo very quickly and Bean probably in short order won't be in, is because they know that the CBA might rock their ability for at least a year. Like, they're not going to be able to legitimately do their job full capacity in this role for a year. So why step in and suck?
Yeah, and I think that's what, like, obviously Theo has a role in the MLB office right now, and I think that's what probably that conversation was like, hey, this is how it's going to go. You're probably not going to want me right now because it's not going to do you any good.
Yep.
Totally.
Which means Sandy is going to take the bullet, and they're going to keep Sandy, and they're going to let Sandy just run that and operate it, and then they're going to tell him.
Hate that.
Again, then they're going to tell him, guess what? You're out after a year. You know? Don't sign any big. But that's my thing. Mets. The challenge for the Mets is what? And this is the same thing, because I would do it in a heartbeat now. And I'm going to speak some blaspheming that people are going to.
Oh, God. What are you going to trade DeGrom?
Trade DeGrom. Oh. Absolutely. Absolutely. If I told you right now, what could you get for Jacob DeGrom? What do you think you could get?
A lot.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So if I looked at the Padres, what could I get? Everything.
Yeah.
If I looked at the Angels, what could I get? Everything.
Yeah.
Name a team who's almost there, right? Who's right there on the cusp and needs to have a dude. I'll take everything you have. I'll take your soul from you, right? And if you're the Mets, right, I'm gonna take one season. I'm gonna see what I got in the young guys. I have to, because I have enough guys who are like even Lindor's 27, right? Baez 28.
Yes.
Right. Pete's 26. Like, if I then have Vientos playing third and he's 22, my infield's going to be good, right? McCann I'll let sit with Nito, and we'll be okay for another year before we have to figure out what we're doing at catcher. I'll let Khalil Lee play center. Brandon Nimmo's playing a corner. I go out and get one guy. Because I don't think I can pay Conforto $18.9 million.
No, absolutely not. Do you... Let's say for fun and games there's a DH next year.
Fun and games, yes. Because I'm assuming Dom Smith moves to that.
DH.
That's why I was.
Cool.
That's
so
why.
So you'd pull in a left fielder?
I'd pull in. It depends where Nimmo wanted to play.
Sure. So
I'd let him choose his own adventure.
Personally, I would like to see Castellanos.
Okay.
I think I
know you want that,
but I think because he's a corner guy and great offensive player. And I think that solves, at least in your scenario, like the best piece on the market right now to fill that role.
So, like, if you looked at it from that standpoint, right, that Mets team should, if everything's everything, that Mets team should bang.
Yeah. Oh,
right? Yeah. Like, I do not, like, I assume that Baez is closer to the player he was in the back half of the year with us than he was when he first came over and he was slumping. I still don't think he's ever going to be, like, an electric bat with like a high batting average, like bat 285 and crush home runs.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted a little more.
He's an 800 OPS guy who's great defensively, brings great energy, makes smart heads up plays on the base paths. He gives us up the middle with him and Lindor an electric duo. It allows us to then have a bat at third that's not defensively significant. And then Pete, right? Dom Smith can play some first base. Go let Nimmo shift over. I want to see Khalil Lee, and I want to let him fail. The Mariners almost made the playoffs, and they had a guy batting 177 playing center field for them for most of the year.
Yep.
They
let him figure it out, and by the end, he was contributing at least in some capacity.
And the Mets need to let the young guys fail more because you're faking yourself out that you were close to a title.
Yep.
And I don't think that they're that far. right? But if you told me,
listen, they were in first place for 100 days.
If
It was there.
if you told me that you were able to get for DeGrom, right, a young stud pitcher and a young stud blank, would you do it? Like, I'm talking top 10 prospect and a top 20 prospect.
I mean, top 10 in all of baseball.
Wander Franco.
That's the kind of tier I was going to say. Wander Franco.
Wander Franco, and a
Shane Baz.
a high level arm
Shane Baz. That's their best pitching prospect.
for DeGrom.
That's tough. Where are you putting Franco?
Third base.
He'd hate that. I don't know. That's a tough one. I feel like that's a tough one. I don't think I'd do it, honestly. But
see, and my thing is, if we're not going to have the elbow's a thing, right? You got to think about the elbow.
Yep.
The second thing you have to start thinking about is he is getting into his now mid-30s, right? Even if he's electric all the time, if he's a 24 start guy, because he can't pitch full seasons anymore with what he is, right? Is he the guy that we need, right? Especially, I know he's underpaid, but you're telling me Wander Franco, and now I have some money to move around? Because I could go out and I could re-sign Stroh and have Stroh come back.
Okay, I've actually rethought my decision.
Get it?
So we have DeGrom for 3 more years.
Yes.
If you liken it to what just happened with Max Scherzer,
Yes.
I would accept that trade.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And I think they're getting more than they would get for Scherzer, because Scherzer's older. They had to throw Turner in to get that, and he gave away what amounts to being one of the top 5 shortstops in the game to also get the rest. I think the DeGrom gets that stuff. I think it gets us at least Wander. And then my thing is, if you're Tampa Bay.
But I don't know. The thing with Tampa Bay is I don't know if they're going to want to pay him $30 million.
Oh, I think they would do it for DeGrom. I think all these teams would do it for DeGrom. He's underpaid.
Yeah.
When you compare him to all the other high-end arms and what you're going to have to spend.
Well, he's better than Bauer, and Bauer's getting 40.
He's better than Garrett Cole, and look what Garrett Cole's making.
Yep.
My point to you is, what are the free agent pitchers of this year going to make? And they're going to make more than Jacob deGrom is going to make. So my point to you is, you're going to be able to get Jacob deGrom for less money than Berrios gets. And if you're getting Jacob deGrom, that's the point. Like, that's my thing that if I'm looking at the Mets, and Mets fans will be like, you can't trade him. You're trading a generational. Bro, if I'm getting Wander Franco, I might be getting a generational bat.
Yep.
I might be getting our next.
That's why I was like,
our next David
people
Wright.
traded Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer won the Nationals a World Series. Like, DeGrom's been a
and
great
my
pitcher.
man was the starter in the All-Star game this year.
Yep.
Again, I think you have to look at yourself and you have to put real chips on the table and say, how do you make these moves? Mm-hmm. Right? And if you're not one of the last 4 teams, you need complete alteration. Manny Machado. Manny will not be a Padre next year.
I wouldn't, honestly. I mean,
Manny will not be a Padre next year.
Yeah, honestly, I actually considered him as like maybe the Mets going after him.
So the challenge that I see with the Mets going after him.
But after what we just said, I don't know if the Mets are going to go after anybody big.
Correct.
Really.
It, again, depends on what you do.
Yeah.
If the Mets are trying to force their way into the playoffs, right, and you get Castellanos and you get Manny Machado, and Syndergaard's back, DeGrom's there, Taiwan Walker, McGill, Carrasco, right? Elite bullpen.
Stroman.
I don't think Stroman's a Met. I think Stroman's gone. I think Stroman knows he's gone. Yeah. The reality is...
Stroman's apparently also on the Padres' radar.
So, Padres,
I think it's going to come down to, and Dennis also put this out there, the Mets, the Blue Jays, the Padres, or the Angels. And I actually lean almost more towards the Angels because he could be like their guy.
I think I don't think he ends up with Toronto again.
I don't think so.
Because the reality is, if you even look at Toronto's current setup, like, you already have Matz, Berrios, like,
they also have to pay Robbie Ray.
So when you look at that, I don't see a world where they would go and they would spend the free agent dollars on Stroh. Mm-hmm. If they could,
Stroh's going to cost as much as Robbie Ray.
Which is my point.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, if I'm really looking at it, I would tell you that Stroman ends up the one wild card for me, the one mega wild card for me, is I could see Stroman a Yankee.
He is what they need.
I could see Stroman as a Yankee because I could see them taking all the money that they've been given to a bunch of guys, and if you're going to go out and you are going to get Seager, right, your defense gets a little bit better in the infield. Mm-hmm. I could see them then getting Stroh and putting Stroh in there, right? Ground ball guy, gets double plays, doesn't let up a ton of home runs, like not going to be a high strikeout guy. There's days where he's going to get hit, and you're going to take that because the other times he's going to go out and he's going to frustrate the other team.
Yeah.
And he's the opposite of what everybody else is, that high-velocity arm. He's this crafty vet. I think that throws people off also because he comes out and he's just such a change of pace from everybody else. I can see the Yankees doing that because he's already in New York, right? And he already has shown that he can pitch in New York. He's pitched in that division before. I don't see him going to Toronto because he doesn't want to be one of four.
Yep.
I could see him coming in and being the salvation piece for the Angels, and I can see him being the South. I just don't think he's met.
Yeah. Listen, the offseason, we'll be here soon enough. We need to talk about the division series because I am very psyched about it. I think there's one series that I'm kind of just like going to write off as I think it's going to go quick, and that's Rays Boston, personally.
Wow.
Yeah. I think Tampa Bay wipes the floor with Boston, to be honest with you.
Respect.
We'll see, but I have a feeling about it.
I think the challenge that I get into is the team that does win that play-in game has like that little testosterone boost, that little confidence boost, that little bit of electric.
Yeah, but the Yankees had that getting into the playoff game.
No, they all did. They all got to the playoff game. That's my thing. Like the Red Sox had to stave off disaster, and they did.
Sure.
And then once they staved off disaster, they had their mortal enemy show up, and they sunned them, right, and sent them home, right? Now we're in this game against Tampa, and we've seen these guys. We know these guys. We can do this, right?
Maybe.
So I'm with you. I think the series that's going to be nothing is, like, Dodgers got to be angry, don't they?
Oh, I'm sure they're very angry.
Dodgers got to, like, you put a chip on the shoulder of the best team in baseball.
Yep. But that's the series I'm most excited about because I think it's two best teams in the game, and as much as we keep knocking the Giants for whatever imaginary reason, they are continuing to just produce and kept on winning, and they were finished with the best record in baseball.
Facts.
Going to be an unbelievable series. Milwaukee, Atlanta is going to be fun. What do you think about Atlanta?
I hate Atlanta. Atlanta to me is Boston.
Yeah, I think they're very similar team.
I don't have the identity. I don't know what you are. You're just a good organization that wins games, but I don't think that they're built to win in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think they're. I mean, they their first two game starters are Morton and Fried, which is those are solid, right? Yeah. And their lineups produced. They made some great moves at the trade deadline to bolster their lineup and make it all the way back and win the division. And I think they have a good, solid team. I just think Milwaukee's better.
Yeah.
And everyone, like the Milwaukee's lineup was a question mark for like a lot of the season, and their pitching held them down big time. But I think they figured it out second half. Yelich producing like crazy. Dames. I just think that's going to be a great series, but I think Milwaukee pulls away with it.
Yeah, it really the Braves to me all comes down to Freddie. Mm-hmm. Right? If Freddie's Freddie and he's out here crushing balls out of there and making huge saves at first base and pulling it down and just leads by example, they can win some games. Mm-hmm. But I look at that team and I say for the most part it's one guy.
Yeah, I mean they had Austin Riley played really well this year. Albie's always contributing. Like they have great guys.
They have good players, but there's Freddie Freeman is a MVP guy, right? Freddie Freeman's one of the top 15 players in the game. Mm-hmm. He's different, right? If you hold him down, everybody at this point has a good lineup. Everybody at this point has a dude.
Yep.
Right? To me, it also comes down to how well did they play all year, right? And the Brewers have been better all year. Mm-hmm. Atlanta just seems like whoever came out of the NL East was just the least worst.
Yeah.
And not the best.
Yeah.
And that to me is just why I don't have high hopes for the Braves.
I think so. Series I'm most excited about, Giants-Dodgers. The most interesting to me is Houston-Chicago.
Houston-Chicago is the most interesting to me. Like that's the one that pulls me in and I go, I have no I have no care who really wins. Whoever wins, great. I just
Yeah.
want to see good baseball.
Yep.
Right?
And it's going to be very good baseball.
I want to see the White Sox beat Houston just because I feel like the White Sox feel the opportunity to steal Chicago from the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the Mets Yankees situation. This is like, you're the other team in town.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to take this opportunity to do it.
Yep.
And I feel like they've done enough. Their bullpen's going to be great. They're going to hold it down. They're going to kill it. They've got great balance in their lineup. They've got guys who are killing it. But Houston is just so seasoned that they've been here so many times that like it just feels like they're going to run through it and they're going to then give everybody in the playoffs a hard time because we've been here before. We know what it's like. We've been all the way to the promised land.
That's why I feel like it's so interesting. You have the seasoned vets first, the exciting youngsters who are just
hungry,
super hungry.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And I just don't know where that one's going to go. But that's the one that I'm most interested to see what the results end up as.
Mm-hmm. All right. World Series you think is going to happen, and then World Series that you'd like to happen.
World Series I think is going to happen is going to be Dodgers versus the Rays.
Okay.
The World Series I would like to happen is Dodgers versus the White Sox.
Okay.
Winner I'd like to see White Sox win it all.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be electric for White Sox fans. I think that would just be like that like team of destiny feel that you get in other sports, and you start like having like, oh man, everything just kind of all came together. There was some adversity, but I mean they've been good since jump, right? They were a good team since jump. They got bored in the second half. I think they were waiting for this time. It's time for them to show up and shine and do it. I'd love to see them get it. I also just don't want to see Dodgers have a dynasty. Like it's the same thing that you see with the Yankees. At some point in time in the late 90s, 2000s, like you guys spent the most money and you're winning. It just it takes away from the fun. Yeah, I mean, I still think the Dodgers are just borderline unbeatable if everything shows up.
Yeah. I think for me, the series I'd like to see happen is White Sox Giants.
Okay.
And I'd like to see the Giants win.
Okay.
Just because I feel like their whole season's been a dream, and obviously we talked earlier in the season that like they were set to win 70 games or something like that, and it was
I hate San Fran.
That's fine. I just think it would be it's the same like Cinderella, like this team wins it all.
I'm with
cool.
you. I'm just tired of San Fran winning. You know who San Fran is? San Fran is they're the Cardinals. Like y'all just win all the effing time, right? Like
Yeah.
and you could just put out a stick of butter at second base and magically we still made it. Like it's just so frustrating.
That's what I
look
love.
At the team. I hate the frustration because I look at you and there's no reason why you should be there and you're there, and
It's just a bunch of guys playing baseball really well. It doesn't matter who they were putting
But
out
if they
there.
win, won't they have won in like the last 15 years, like 4 of the World Series or more?
Well, the last decade they were winning every other year. I
Every
believe.
other year
Yeah,
for like
yeah.
4 or 5 years. Find me
I forget they won God, we used to watch them all the time at John's
since
house.
their first one in the early 2000s. How many have they won?
I want to say it's 3 or 4.
I'm pretty sure if they won this one, they'd be like 4 or 5 in a 15-year window.
They're actually in a drought right now. They haven't won since 2014.
Oh no, I know they're in a drought.
Yeah.
But they won 2010, 2012, 2014.
Right.
So this would be number 4, right? And I hate that. You have enough. No, like White Sox, none.
Yeah.
Get it.
For me, if it's the series that I'd like to happen, Giants or White Sox, I'd be happy with either.
Yeah.
Like that's just a great
Nobody
story.
would watch that World Series.
Absolutely. Not
That
a
would
person.
have like a negative rating.
The Dodgers being in it obviously helps, and I
Yeah.
think the series that I could see happening is Dodgers versus Tampa or Chicago or even Houston. I think if they played Houston, that'd be the most watched. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think the most watched would be Red Sox versus
Red Sox Dodgers. Okay, yeah, Houston or Red Sox.
If I had to say real, because like then you'd pull all the East Coast and you'd pull all the West Coast. You'd have the whole thing going. And I think at that point, you'd also look at it like the Red Sox obviously had magic happen. And, like, to get to the point that you have magic, like, people like watching magic.
Sure.
So, like, they're just, like, the least likely to make it. So because they're the least likely, if they did, I think that one would be the most watched one. I think baseball would be the happiest.
You also get the Mookie Betts storyline with that.
True. Yeah.
Which I'd love to then see, you know, the Red Sox beat them. And it's like, you know, because you're seeing stories now, the Red Sox are the smartest team in baseball. Like, they've got the best GMs. They've got the best everything. Like, they killed it. They crushed it. So I think that would just carry with that whole thought process. But really, as a Mets fan and a baseball guy, like, this year sucks now. Because I'm looking at – I had so much fun with everything, but I'm looking at it now, and I'm just like – I look at some of these teams, and I'm like, I could have sworn to you the Mets were better than that team.
Absolutely. If we went back to the beginning of our podcast from this year, and you looked at the Mets, everybody agreed the Mets are a great team. They had a monumental fall off.
Syndergaard. Syndergaard's going to be back in June. Syndergaard's going to be back in June.
2 days before the season ends.
He came back in October. Like, he does. Oh no, it was September 27th. No, it was October. That counts as October. Late September is actually early October. Done, right? Like, shenanigans.
Yep.
And that he threw like 8 pitches, and it's like, what could have been, right? DeGrom, the elbow gets salty,
funky,
and angry at him, and again, like, he's out. Like, Stroman pitches fine. Walker gets to his first All-Star game and has like a 19 ERA in the second half. Carrasco, career solid-ass pitcher, has a 6 ERA for the Mets this year. And it's like Conforto, who I've compared numerous times to Bryce Harper in his career, because if you looked up until this season, they were within fractional points of each other on a per-year WAR basis. Absolutely sucks, and Harper is borderline MVP candidate. Like, Pete Alonso shows up second half. Lindor shows up second half, then gets hurt. Misses 6+ weeks, right? Javi Baez come in to replace him. He gets hurt. He misses time. Like, nah.
The Mets were the anti-Giants.
Nah, yes. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Murphy's Law.
Yep.
Right? Like, everything. Which is why some people would tell you don't blow it up. I like chaos. Blow it all up. Wipe the slate clean. Do it all from the beginning.
Blow it up was coming anyway. There was a lot of question marks with the whole team in the last couple of years, I feel like. And now we're here. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm on the trade DeGrom train now. And it won't last long, because I'll see him throw 107-mile-an-hour fastball past somebody, and I'll be like, he's so fucking good.
Yep.
And I won't want to trade him. But right now, going into the offseason, he's making $28 million a year. If I could get Wander Franco and some spice, I gotta do it.
We'll see. We'll do. We're gonna do like a GM episode after the postseason and go through everybody.
Do you want to G up? Like, do you want to like GM the Mets and like what would be the perfect offseason? We'll follow it next year about like if we had signed the guy I wanted to.
What
like
they
how
would
we
be doing.
Yeah,
I'm down. I want a GM for a bunch of teams. I want to GM the Yankees. And
what we can do is we can say what we would do, and then we can simulate the season on MLB The Show, and we can start saying how would our teams have done versus how the Mets are currently doing.
Okay, I'm down.
So I'll trade DeGrom, and I'll let all my young guys play.
Okay.
Still gonna end up winning 88 games. Gonna crush it. Wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm with it. What did you see Juan Soto
at the Dodger game?
Yeah.
I love that.
So
sick.
I love that Juan is trying to be a superstar.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
he's doing everything he needs to do, which I think is epic.
Which is why he won't be a national for long.
No.
If I'm the Nationals, seeing him last night and seeing him all over and seeing him taking selfies with people and everything else, the Nationals got to be thinking in their head right now, we're not gonna have Juan in 3 years. Because what are we gonna do?
They literally have gone through this. You talked about it.
Yep.
They had let Harper go. Juan Soto is a bigger star than Bryce Harper now. Bryce Harper was a big deal when he first came up, and then he kind of let himself move back into out of the spotlight a little bit, and Juan Soto was like, keep it on me. Let's go. So I think he's going to keep producing, keeping the best hitter in baseball. And
he produced a 7 WAR this year. Bryce Harper, 5.9 WAR.
Oh, we know how good Juan Soto is. And he's going to – I also think he needs – we talk about how much Ohtani's worth. I think Ohtani, if he actually takes what he's worth, will move Soto's value even more so to like just ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
So I very much want to see all those things happen so that Soto gets the gigantic bag from whoever, the Mets.
Yeah. Whoever, the Mets. I don't. There's no chance. I think there's no chance he's a Met.
It's highly unlikely, but
Ooh. Let's just throw this one out there real quick.
sure.
Real quick. They wouldn't do it. Never mind.
No, now you have to say it.
No.
No,
It's
you
okay.
have to say it.
It's okay.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
Judge and Soto.
Yeah.
Flip flop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the dream.
Well, so again, I would then say that the Yankees are the ones sending more.
For Soto? Oh, yeah, of course.
Right? So then the Yankees send Judge and what to get Soto. Sign Soto now, right? Buy out his arbitration years. Get him for $30 million. You sign him to the Tatis deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's now the face of the Yankees, right? He shows up, plays outfield, face of the Yankees, big contract. The Nationals have 1 year of Judge. Because they have a full year of Judge, they then get the first-round pick for Judge when he signs in the offseason with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So they get him as a full year walk away. The team doesn't get worse the first year. And worst case scenario, if Judge is a National halfway through the year, they trade him again. They flip him for something else to a team like they just did. Restock, reload, get themselves re-going, and reset the whole system. The Yankees get the face of the franchise. I would then say that you could sign Soto for less money than you're going to sign Judge for, but you're going to sign him for 12 years, and you're going to have him till he's 35. But would you care if you had him for $35 million till he's 35? No. So they immediately get a monster player, and he's a lefty bat.
He's a lefty bat in that ballpark.
So my point is, if I'm the Yankees, that would be something that would spice up my life, something incredible. I would trade the whole bag. There's nothing I wouldn't do if I was the Yankees to trade for Soto. Nothing. You could not tell me anything in the world. I will trade you Judge. I will trade you Glaber. And I will trade you my best other prospect, anything you want, to get Juan. And then sign Juan to the bag.
Yeah.
And now you balance your lineup.
That would be
You
very
balance your
interesting.
lineup. He can play full-time outfield. Stanton can go full-time DH, right? Cooking.
So what I'm trying to remember now, like what's the most comparable to a blockbuster trade like that in recent memory?
The most blockbuster trade was just Trey Turner
for Scherzer, and then like what beyond that?
The last time Lindor.
Yeah. Okay. And the Mets sent practically nothing.
No,
for
I
him.
mean, you really look at what the Mets sent. The Mets sent a lot for him.
I mean, we did. We sent a bunch of players. Fine.
I mean, look at what the
But
Mets sent for Edwin
contributed.
Diaz.
Yeah, that more so. Actually.
Justin Dunn and Kalinick.
That's probably the most comparable, at least for in our realm of the NL East.
See, but this is the guy who we forget in the trade, and I think we've talked about he needed to move off of New York. Ahmed Rosario, 25 years old, batted .282 with a 2.1 WAR and 11 home runs. Right? Mm-hmm. His OPS at shortstop was .731, and he played a little bit of center field. He stole 13 bases. Like, that's the guy who the Mets thought they had back in 2019 when he batted .287 and had 755 OPS. Right? If Ahmed is a plus guy, that was a good player that moved for him,
right.
And he immediately replaces some of what was Lindor. The guy who is still TBD is 23-year-old Andres Simeones, right? Who played a little bit everywhere this year, only batted .218 as a 22-year-old with a .633 OPS. But in 2020, in 50 games with the Mets, he had a 732 OPS as a 21-year-old. That player is going to play up. And I forget who else they included.
It was Ahmed Rosario, Jimenez, Josh Wolf, and oh my God. Some like single A outfielder, I believe. Or maybe another pitcher? I forget now. Deets, are you pulling it up?
Working on it.
Oh boy.
Josh Wolf, Isaiah Green.
Isaiah Green, that's who it was.
So Isaiah Green was a high-touted prospect for the Mets. I'm pretty sure he was a high draft pick. And I'm pulling him up right now. So Isaiah Green is still 20 years old. He, this past season, 790 OPS in 152 at-bats.
Okay.
In the minors. So he is young. He was drafted and then never played. But he had a 289 batting average, 368 slugging. So his power just was not there. But the Mets drafted him in the second round with a compensation pick in 2020. So this was his first year of baseball ever. He really was a 19-year-old, should have been last year, 18, 19-year-old when he got drafted. He just missed out on the season because those guys didn't play.
Right.
So Isaiah Green still TBD on his value. I don't know Wolf's value, right? But the two other guys have been at the MLB level, and right now Ahmed Rosario is above replacement level. Now, was that worth Lindor? Maybe not, but Lindor was also walking in and not being able to pay. So Judge is coming with Lindor value, right? So Lindor value ends up being that Ahmed Rosario at one point in time was a top 5 prospect in baseball, right?
Yep.
Andres Jimenez was a top 15 player in baseball. Those are big chips that just are young, right, that we don't fully know yet. So Judge and Glaber for Soto plus something else. I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. And again, like if you're the Nationals, you're going full-on rebuild.
That's something else.
And you're re-scooping that thing all the way to the bottom of the barrel.
For that third guy, would you want it to be somebody who's almost major league ready?
No.
You want somebody from?
I want a high upside, like
couple years away
guy who pitched this year in single A and had a 2 ERA and struck out a whole bunch of guys. Because he could be a year away, he could be 6 months away, he could be 2 years away. He could be moving from being a starter to being a reliever, right? But I'd probably take my risk because Glaber has to get out of New York, I think, at this point, because I think he's just concerned with replacing people, and he had all this pressure. And I think if he moves, if you sent him to the Nationals, he could play second base for the Nationals and be a stud, right? So he immediately is a stud hitter. Then you also have Judge, stud hitter, right? The Nationals get better probably short term from the trade, but they get more out of what they're going to not get for Soto. They're not going to have a situation like what they just had. And then if they're able to trade Judge next year at mid-season peak, and you were able to get what you just got for Trey Turner and guys like that, and you have a team that needs a hitter and they know they need a hitter and Judge is smashing home run, flip Judge. I think that works for everybody involved. And I think that gives the Nationals the ability to reset, reload, build your team around like Glaber and a whole bunch of other young guys and reset your roster all the way back to the beginning. Because the challenge that teams in the National League are going to run into is the same thing that I've said repeatedly about like the Patriots and the Golden State Warriors and now the Dodgers. When there's a team that's at the top with all the money and they're willing to spend it and develop it and do it, what are you building a good team for if you're never going to build a team better than that team? The Nationals got to be looking at this like Stevie Cohen's about to just drop bank, right? He's about to unload cash. When's the next time that we theoretically think we could win?
It's going to be a minute.
It's going to be a minute.
You got the Braves, you got the Phillies, and you got the Mets ahead of you.
So you could wait to acquire talent for Soto, right? Or you could drop your expectations down, right, by getting rid of Soto, get back crazy value in return for him, right? The Mets, they're the Yankees' top pitching prospect, whatever his name is, like whoever he is. Him, Glaber, Judge, flip Judge for then a top prospect who's ready to go. Because, like, could you then flip Judge for Kalenic, right? I like that. You then bring back a guy like Soto, but Soto's 3 years into his life. He's about to be 4 years through his life, and he's almost done with Arbor. You got Kalenic for 6 years, 5 years more, right? Like, you're not going to have to get to the same point. You get to reset a lot of those numbers and restock your team, reload the organization, and wait out what's looking like could be a stretch by the Mets if the Mets dip into it. Because Lindor looked good, right? Back half of the year, Lindor looks like the guy.
Yep.
Again, not going to be a super high batting average guy, but he's going to be an 850 OPS Gold Glove shortstop. Like, he's going to be the truth. Javi's staying. I have no idea how anybody could think Javi's not staying at this point. I think he wants to stay.
That would be crazy if he wasn't.
I think he wants to stay. Lindor loves him. Like, he has great energy. He's staying. They're building, or they're going to either go all in or they're going to go partially in, but they're not going in with money. So if you're the Nationals, you're not winning anytime soon. The Phillies are still on the cusp.
Yep.
Right? The Phillies are still a step away. They've put a big money into the team. Dude, I'd do the hell out of that if I'm the Nationals. But you'd get eviscerated by your fan base. But you got Judge. I could sell that. You know what I mean? Like, I could sell that, hey, you know what? Like, we've had some friction with Juan, right? Like, there's been friction, and you know, we got great value. We're gonna be a better team next year. We can compete right away, right? Go out and sign a pitcher.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think what it is too is, like, they now have had to get used to the fact that the Nationals moved their biggest star.
Yep.
Right? And then they do it again, but it's like, okay, well, hold on. This time we brought in a star. Like, when we brought in Scherzer.
Yeah.
Now he's a guy, he's going to be here for X amount of time, and we're going to build around him now. So I don't hate that at all.
And I think that works out for everybody.
Yeah.
So
We'll see.
I think that more MLB teams need to be aggressive and I think more pro sports teams. We've talked about it. Like, the reason why the Rays are in it every year is because they develop better. You look now in the NFL, and everybody knows I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. The biggest difference between the Bills and other teams that I now see that I never used to recognize is the ability to build talented players on the back end. Like, the Bills pulled up a kid off their practice squad who came in immediately and lit it up. Cam Lewis, like, crushed it. Out here covering guys, picking balls off. Their backup safety, who replaced Jordan Poyer, missed a week from injury, came in, interception, bunch of tackles. Like, so the backups are starters. What?
Yeah. Well, you know what
Growth, development.
It's interesting that you're talking about that, because the Rays did something when they clinched the division. They set up, like, a Zoom feed with their AAA team, because they're like, yo, half of you, like, we had 61 dudes play this year on this team. Like, half of you guys were part of this. Like, you need to be a part of it. And I think they recognize, and that's why the culture throughout there, I think, goodness, I forget what it was now, but at least 3 of their levels won the championship. Like, there's something to be said there.
For winning.
So, yep.
For winning at all levels. And it creates a culture of winning. It creates a culture of being good. Like, the thing with looking what the Rays did. So there's a line of thinking, like flow states, like getting into a flow, right? In order to elicit a flow state systemically over time, right? And when you read books like The Talent Code and things like that, where they talk about why are all of the best soccer players all from poor areas of Brazil, right? Why are they, like, able to generate all this amazing quality of soccer player, even though there's a lot less people? Right, but they're doing it at a high level. You go to Russia, and the same tennis school is out here putting out like 15 professional players, but you have better systems other places. We look here in the United States, like, if you want to play lacrosse, you're from Long Island or Maryland, right? Why is it so much better? So it starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy based off of culture, right? That the history of you having success, if you show a kid who's here that you have somebody up the ladder at every step who can tell that kid how to do it the right way, right? So the kid at high A, right? We'll use the Mets organization. Like, Brett Beatty can look up one level and he can see a guy who's doing it, who's about to go. And that guy can see a guy up the level in a team, in an organization that's doing it the right way. And then they see it at the professional level. And the organization creates this culture where you can see success happen in real time and what the results are, and everybody buys in deeper.
And you know what I think it is too? Now you're saying that? There's also the opportunity to get there.
Yes.
The Rays have so much turnover,
Yes.
whereas you get other teams who are like, yo, our shortstop's locked up for 10 years, so good luck.
We'll trade our guy.
We're gonna hold on to
Yeah.
you until the Rule 5, and maybe you get picked up, maybe you don't.
Yep.
Bye.
Yep. And then here it's like, no, if you do the right stuff, you'll get there, right? And
Yep.
here's the line. Here's how it happens. And it's clearly set out and it's clearly established, and then winning is prioritized deep through the culture. Mets don't have that. A lot of teams don't.
Mm-hmm.
Guys are free agents. They're out here. The Mets had more good players in the minors than they've ever had this year in a very, very long time. None of them played together.
Yep.
When they did play together, it was at Brooklyn, and that team was doing well, had no pitching. But you had 3 hitters who all got time together. Then they broke that up, and everybody was disjointed. None of these guys got to create a culture of winning together. At some point in time, you have to say, yo, we're going to put you all together, and we're going to win. Right? We're just going to win at scale.
I could see that being next year.
And like,
Yeah.
I would hope, right? Like, you hope at some point in time, hey, we're prioritizing winning at every level.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to prioritize winning at the AAA level, and we're going to prioritize winning at the MLB level. We have to win, right? And if that's then the thing, then the next year it's shifting down, AA. We have to win, right? All these levels, and then you keep working it back. Now a kid enters the organization, the expectation is win and develop. Here's how you win. Here's how we play. Here's how culture exists.
Yeah.
Welcome to it. The Rays have had it for years. They've been doing it now for a while, so they win.
Mm-hmm.
Always, 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 always. They're also not afraid of their young players.
Yeah.
They'll put guys in and they'll let them struggle and they'll let them figure it out because they know that they can carry the load across a number of good players. You got 25 guys. I can have 20 who can carry the load and 5 who are learning on the fly. You look at like the Mets this year, 25 guys could contribute. Nobody was having to learn on the fly. And that limits your upside.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the end of the year and there's nobody excited about playing the game. There's nobody with a huge ceiling who's now grown into themselves. Kalenic next year is going to be a stud. He'll all of a sudden be a great player.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of this year, being allowed to fail. And not feeling like, oh, if I F up, I'm getting sent back down. Nope, here you go. Ride it out. This little hiccup you had in the middle of the year, we sent you down, we let you reload, you're back up, you're the guy. Next year, you're the guy. Cool, relax. He was a worse player than Khalil Lee, who got no time on a worse team. Culture.
Yep.
Culture.
And one more thing with culture, and I think we can wrap this thing up.
Put a bow on it.
Is there somebody that, at the top of your head, that you could see coming in and being a good manager for the Mets?
Oh, Lord.
Because now there's also an opening for the Padres, too, which does not help the Mets situation.
I don't think that the Padres situation impacts the Mets at all.
I'm just saying there's two possible playoff teams with managerial openings.
I'd rather be the manager of the Mets than the Padres.
Okay. Why?
Based off of what you have now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can talk myself into everybody on the Padres who was good played well and they still lost. On the Mets, everybody who could play well didn't, and they were okay for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I can convince myself with Daddy Warbucks, right, an open bag to go buy what I want and what I need,
Mm-hmm.
and me thinking that I'm an X factor on development and growth of a player, that the Mets have all the ability to get. Where do the Padres get better?
The Padres could probably get some pitching.
But we talked about this, right? They already went and got all the pitching last year. They traded for guys.
And they didn't play that well, 100%.
But what do you... The Mets did nothing, right? The Mets gave up nothing of consequence last year,
mm-hmm.
right? Getting Lindor cost them MLB players.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, they gave up MLB players. 2 of those players played the same position, so weren't going to be able to play in that position anyway.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you gave up nothing that impacted winning in a window. The Padres have given up everything. We said it at the trade deadline. They really didn't have much left they could do. They made a pop. They tried to do, but it was just not enough
mm-hmm.
because they couldn't take a. Where are they going to go now? They're not talking about needing to trade Machado because they need to free up cash. Again, this goes back to being misbuilt,
mm-hmm.
right? And at some point in time, you need to have money in the right spots. And when you start having money in the wrong spot, like Tatis is a center fielder now. Is he an outfielder? Now I have a shortstop problem.
Mm-hmm.
Is Machado going back to short? maybe, but then I have a whole third base. Is Cronenworth then switching over to there? I traded for what's his name from the Frazier. Is he staying? Is he going to second? Is that how I'm doing this? They're misbuilt, man.
Mm-hmm.
I like they walk themselves. The Mets are not misbuilt.
Mets need to be built more.
The Mets didn't play well.
Yeah.
I blame a lot of it on Rojas. So my question is, who would I bring in?
Would you go? Because I think there's two types of managers. There's the younger player-oriented manager, or there's the older vet Buck Showalter, Bruce Bochy type guy. Who would you lean towards for this group right now?
The older guy.
Okay, I also agree with that.
I think that
I would value the experience much more.
I think the challenge that you get with having a young manager who's just exciting and is a culture guy is that you need to have supremely strong leadership at GM.
Yes.
And because the Mets don't have any leadership at GM, you can't go and hire a manager to game development because you have your baseball guy at GM, right? You look at a team like AJ's the guy with the Padres.
Right.
So he looked at it and he said, my manager did not press the right buttons. My guys did not respond to their best selves with him being the leader. Right. Alex Cora gets the most out of his team. Mm-hmm. Cora has proved, but what do they have? Organizationally, they know where to get guys. They know how to read the math. They know how to do everything. They could tell Cora who needs to play when, and he just needs to get those guys fired up to go out on the field. And he does a great job. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't think the Yankees need to move on from Boone, is because Boone is that guy.
Right, I agree.
He's the Savages
That's
in the box
why
guy. They play hard for him.
Yep.
They're misbuilt. Cashman has to use his cash. The problem that Cashman has is he's lost the cachet he once had. Right? Because he had won a whole bunch, so you trusted him. Right? Then he hadn't won in a while, and he was like, well, we keep getting hitters, and we don't have pitchers. So their daddy Warbucks opened up the cash and said, okay, here's your guy, Garrett Cole. Immediately, my man's a cheater, and he's not as good as he once was. You didn't win. You needed to be the guy. I gave you what you needed. You're now win or go home. So he's in a 1 year. He's got a win or go home. I don't think that they move on from Cashman yet, but Cashman's now the problem. Because these guys respond to Boone. They were not bad, but you can see the flaws in the design of the team. They tried to reconcile it by going out and getting Gallo and stuff. I think Gallo will be better next year, which I also think helps them, but that also gives me the reason why I think you can move on from Judge. And I think there's places here where you have too many outfielders. You need less outfielders.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say that the Mets need somebody who's a strong baseball mind. Because right now, I don't see a situation where they have a strong enough regard for their GM position that they can do that. They need a guy who is the baseball person so that they can go light on GM over the next 36 months, right? If you have a strong manager who can make decisions about who he wants, what's winning baseball, then the GM just has to do what the manager is saying, and then the analytics will support what the manager wants, right? So we become a manager-focused team, which is the flip side. But they have enough talent on the team that you need a guy who knows how to put them in position and how to get them motivated to play. It just didn't look like they were motivated to play. They were saying all the wrong things, doing all the wrong things. Guys just weren't there. Yeah. What's the answer?
No, I think strong leadership is huge, and having the veteran aspect, the experience, knowing what they want, knowing how they want to put them out there on the field and what the chess pieces are. I didn't think Rojas even remotely had a strong enough leadership role. I think all the guys liked him. They liked playing for him, but they weren't like, yeah, I'll follow you to war. Let's go. I think Terry Collins was that guy when when the Mets were good.
Yes.
That was the same type of guy I'm looking for.
Yep.
I think some people out there are like a Buck Showalter, a Bruce Bochy.
Buck,
Well, the thing is, Bruce Bochy, I don't think will be on the table. I actually think he's going to go manage the Padres because he has managed them previously, and he's the kind of guy that they need.
The only counter to what I'm saying is I could see the Mets going for a manager that they had before.
Who?
Carlos Beltran.
I don't think that happens. I know that he's on the top of the list.
Both guys.
I don't know if I want that.
Hinch and Cora are back managing.
Yes. Oh no, absolutely. There's green light if he wants to be there.
So,
yes,
Rojas was the consolation prize to the success of what was supposed to happen.
But is that just us falling back into what has literally been
No,
happening?
I think Beltran's a baseball genius.
Okay,
And
hold on.
that's the only difference.
That's
the only difference. Beltran has already managed. He was assisting. He was on the Astros coaching staff. He has coached and managed.
He was just a player's coach, a player coach.
No, he was
he was playing when that happened.
No, then the second year he was managing with. Like, he got his job not straight from playing. He was a coach for a year.
I don't remember.
I thought he was.
It was his last year playing, and then he was part of the scandal.
I don't think that was his last year. I think he then also spent a year.
Regardless, I think it's not about
2017 was his last year playing.
Right.
But the Mets hired him in 2019. So that's the 2-year gap. He didn't have a gap. That year in between, he managed.
He did not manage. He actually was a special advisor to the general manager of the New York Yankees, Brian Cashman.
Right.
Gotcha.
So he spent a year learning how to be working alongside that side of the business, and that's where the Mets then took him from. Because everybody realized when he was he's a baseball savant. He is a genius. He is incredible. He is an Alex Cora brain, right? Knows the game. Guys trust him. He was an elite player, all this stuff. I was excited by the Beltran hiring.
Yes, as was I.
Right? I think there might have been enough time that they could walk this back and bring him in.
Is it I personally don't think, but do you think the majority of people will be like, look at what has happened previously with our leadership? We've got drunks, we've got people who want to do sexual assault, all this different stuff, and then we bring in a cheater?
When has Beltran ever been that?
I never said he was that.
But that's my thing, is everybody looks at this and goes, he's the guy, but he became the fall guy.
Yeah.
But now, if on the flip side, you have to look at it. Have the other people been successful?
Not really.
Yes. Cora's not been successful?
Oh, cool. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant Mets leadership.
No.
Yeah, no, they've been very successful. They won World Series.
So everybody
absolutely.
else who was part of this, who got annexation to Puerto Rico, they all have come back and been successful.
Yes.
Beltran is considered in that category of good. I just don't look and I say that there's a guy available who I would want.
I agree. So
when you look at that, Beltran was the prize-winning manager,
and he was a Met, and there's a lot of pluses to that for sure.
And then you have his relationship that he would have with Lindor and Javi Baez. How would that play? Francisco Alvarez coming up. That's why Rojas was the guy, was the Latin influence inside the Mets organization.
Yeah.
And how he would be able to speak to that. I could see Beltran coming back, man.
I think, I know I've seen some lists of the potential candidates, and he's been near the top. So wouldn't shock me. I don't know how I'd feel about it. I'd want to see him actually go out and do it. But I wouldn't mind it. I was very excited when the hire first happened.
Right.
So.
And I saw all the benefits.
Yep.
It was Aaron Boone. It's Alex Cora. It's all these guys. You look at it and you go, Beltran is...
It's the baseball mind with
guy.
the player approach.
Yep.
100%.
And Beltran's the best of the players.
Yeah.
Right? He was a guy who was physically elite, talent elite,
yep,
but brain elite. And there were not that many guys like that. Right? You just don't see it. But you talk about Don Mattingly has been a good manager. Right? You've seen... that Cora has been a good manager. Mm-hmm. You see these ex-player Boone has been a good manager. He's gotten his guys lit up and fired up to play. I could see Beltran because when you look at who's available, there is no one good available because all the old heads have a job who are anything worth really getting. Right? I don't look at some of the other guys and say they're fits. So when I look at that, there's not a guy. Which, speaking of which, Dusty Baker, 2 teams. Or five teams that he's taken to be division champions. First person ever.
Yeah. That's also a very interesting fact that it's Baker versus La Russa in that series. That's just a cool...
Love that.
Yeah, it's great.
Love that. One guy's now in Chicago, the other guy's now not.
Yeah.
Even though it's a different Chicago team. I know that.
Yeah.
Don't you guys look at me like I didn't.
No, I got you. I know what you're saying. Listen, division series is going to be very exciting. Off season is going to be very exciting. Going to be a lot to talk about over the next couple weeks, months.
Will there be baseball next year?
I'm going to say yeah.
How much baseball?
There might be a slight delay.
110 games?
So when would that start? I was like May.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me. So let me ask. So there's no CBA at all. Nothing starts, right? No spring training.
No, I think if they do it, it goes to like everything else, like an uncapped year. Like there's no rules anymore. Anybody can be signed. There's no salary cap. There's no luxury tax.
Well, like I guess it'll be more of like, is there a strike or is there a?
Well, so that's the thing is like, who's gonna flinch? Like,
yeah.
So if the players strike, the owners don't have to pay them.
Right.
If the owners lock them out, right, the players still can claw back at money, right? So it comes down to who wants to not be the guys. So they're going to sit down and they're going to have a thing, but there's a lot of stuff on the table that they're going to have to do that are changes to how culturally things have shifted, right? Gambling is a bigger thing in sports now than it's ever been.
Oh, yeah.
That money has to go to who? How is that money being relayed?
Yeah.
How is that money coming into the game, right?
Yep.
Digital assets. Amazon is potentially getting NFL Sunday Ticket, right? So there are changes in the landscape of how games are broadcast, who has rights to things.
Yep.
Money is shifting. The world is moving. Came out last night that the MLB and the MLB Players Association are dropping their own NFT of all of their players.
Yep.
Alongside VaynerMedia and Gary Vaynerchuk.
Of course.
So how is that playing out, and what is that going to look like? What is that going to mean financially? You're seeing millions and millions and millions of dollars being done in NFTs. Who gets that money? How is it shared? Right? That's new money that never existed before. The players and the MLB now own the playing cards. Now that's money, that's stuff. How's that shared, right? Like, how are we sharing, delineating who gets what? There's so much that's changed because of technology, and baseball has been so far behind that I think that they need to tear up how they've always done it. And both sides need to look at this and say, how do we bring ourselves from 1880 to 2020?
Yep.
We got to catch up. And I hope that they do, and I hope it comes back to that minor league baseball players are part of the union, so they immediately have voting rights in how money gets distributed and what's going on. Because
I mean, minor league like treatment in general needs to come up, because that
in
itself is already a problem.
They've already gotten rid of minor leagues because that was separated because the players couldn't say anything. So that opened up cash flow and revenue for the organizations to not have to pay for all these different things. That made it more successful for teams to not lose money on their minor league development system. The downside is that because players are willing to sacrifice their younger selves for who they are today, right? They want to get paid now, and they forget about what it was like to go through it. They should go to that the players have to give up that they should only have to sign 5-year deals, and that they should then be able to be a free agent. And it shouldn't be that my time in the minors and the pros is the same. It can't be that you bring me up when I'm 23. Now I have 6 years. No. And organizations, hey, you guys want to cut your minor leagues and make more money? Great. 5 years. At that point in time, you got to pay us more money if you want to keep us. And I think that would make the game better, because it would make teams be competitive all the time at all levels. Yeah. Because you got to get the most out of your player now. You can't just set it and forget it in the minor. We paid him 8 years ago. We don't have to worry about him. Can't be. And they need those changes. They need to figure out how that money goes. And they got to get rid of 12-year contracts. Yeah. If you're going to be uncapped, go uncapped. Right? Yep. And if there are teams in baseball that hate uncapped, fully uncapped, create relegation. Throw that on the table. There's 30 teams, right? Cool. Every year, 8 teams get relegated. You play in a separate league. You're the United League, right? There's the American League, National League, the United League. And the United League, those 8 teams, you guys play as a East and a West. You guys play against each other, but you get less cut of the revenue, but you get higher draft priorities. You get more international signing money. You don't have to spend as much money on your MLB roster. I'd love to see MLB allow players to get signed like in soccer. If I could sell Juan Soto to the Yankees for 2 years.
Oh, yeah, no, that'd be interesting.
I still own his rights, but you guys are buying him for 2 years, $60 million a year. Yeah. Guess what? Now that makes it that, hey, the Athletics, you guys have this stud player, but you guys want to stay under $70 million spent a year. Great. Dude's a stud. Loan him. Loan him out.
That would be an interesting
You were in
concept.
relegation anyway. Loan him out. Make money.
Mm-hmm.
Now you recouped cash. Now you have profits. Spend it. But you're a completely different league. You don't get the national money. You don't get anything else. So what would that do? You don't want to be relegated. You make less cash. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You're loaning your players out. You're making less revenue on game days. Forces teams to be good. And I think that's what soccer does well. Football does well internationally is by creating the relegation system that punishes you for not being good. It forces teams to parlay themselves into doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But if you have haves and have-nots, that's fine. Having completely uncapped will bring more money into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have a situation where you'll have more billionaires owning teams, right? Like the Guggenheim group that owns the Dodgers, like they've got billions and billions of dollars, and they don't care because they're using the Dodgers to market all their other businesses.
Right.
The Dodgers are just part of a portfolio of things they do now. So they can take losses on the Dodgers, and it helps them make their money on their other businesses. So like now you're using it as a marketing expense where you lose money, don't care. Yeah. That's now where corporations own teams and things are cool. Do that. Let's get funky.
Yeah. Let's get funky.
Let's get funky. That's the title of the episode on YouTube.
Sounds good.
Let's get funky.
Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe as always, and we will see you on the next episode. Enjoy the playoffs. We'll talk to you next week.
Later.
Baseball lifestyle, it's my lifestyle.